Bom dia, boa tarde, senhoras e senhores.
En portugués.
Temos a sessão de hoje sobre o papel da
Well, it is my pleasure to be here, and we're going to see the role of trees in agriculture and how to really make agree the objectives of nature with preservation. We are going to speak about the culture. We are going to have simultaneous interpretation into English. We're going to have simultaneous interpretation into English. First and foremost, I would like to thank OFTA for the support in order to make this session, and FHDH that allowed to make an exchange of experiences. And then to the presenters, some of them are in the middle of the Amazonian forest. However, I want to thank our three guests, Jail Tsubakamatsu, who will speak about lady earning and who will also tell us about an experience of this region, and Correa, who will give us his knowledge of the Amazonian, the Peruvian Amazonian. So I would like to say which are the main objectives of this meeting and the technology we are going to use in this meeting. Seemingly, I cannot share. Can anybody share with me? I cannot share my presentation. Can anybody help me and share the presentation? The first slide tells us about the meeting, the general title of the session. Please, we are going to go to the second one. Please, Maya, can you help me? In the objectives of the session, while we await for the presentation to take place, we would like to share the intercultural experiences between Peru and Brazil with the purpose of learning lessons vis-a-vis the good practices of systems and control that can really make agree social, ecological, and economic objectives. The idea is to share key questions. The second question is to increase the awareness about these ancestral systems at the Amazonia and to identify if there are good practices in these objectives. The questions are, what types of agroforestry systems and practices can meet farmer objectives while enhancing ecosystem services? What are the challenges to implementing and managing these systems over time? What lessons have we learned from our experience that might benefit other farmers and decision makers? I am going to ask the attendees to express their very interesting ideas, and I know that there are very many more people who have experiences to share. I would like to invite everybody to respond to these questions in our chat. If you have any ideas in order to contribute in our session and be able to go into the discussion, please feel free to do so, and this will help us to answer these 3 questions. What type of systems and practices can satisfy the objectives of both economic and systemic endeavors? Please contribute with your experience for our work and be able to help some others who are in similar situations. And now, this methodology will be shared by everybody. All of you can share your ideas, and in the next sequence, I'm going to show you our first panelist, Shayu Santana Haniatsu. He works at the Agricultural Cooperative. Bien sûr. And thank you for bringing here the doctor in order for them to share their experience. He's also the owner of a consulting company called Land and Innovation, and he works on mapping rural landscape. Jailson will run a 5-minute video speaking about his expertise, and then he will talk with us and try to answer the questions that we have just presented to you. Jailson Takamatsu. I'm going to show a little bit of the production we have here in this area. This was started in 2008, and we have this production of the oil. And these are the chestnuts I am collecting, the Neroba chestnuts, and they open themselves, and Neroba oil is extracted, and we are at the end of the harvest process, but I'm going to cut one in order for you to see it. This is the cocoa harvest. We have the pulp here. This is cocoa to make chocolate. And here we have several species. Pineapple, that tall tree is a species. It is an oil seed, and next we have the dende palm. And as you can see, we have acai on this palm tree, which is in the back. Here we have the species. We have Amiroba and the species Dende, cacao, and acai, cocoa and acai. The first good thing I want to talk to you about is the production. We have production of this type all year long. We have dende palm tree, we have cupuaçu, at other time acerola, and we have different harvests along the year, and this is an advantage for the producer. One other advantage is the environmental services. This is a property which is 2 kilometers away from an urban center at the Tono Azul municipality. What we have registered here in our ecosystem, we have monkeys, coatis, owls, different types of owls, not only foxes related to this. And actually the environmental service provides soil preservation. We have a lot of organic matter, and all the surface has some mushrooms that are decaying, We have the presence of several worms that are fixed by carbon. We recycle nutrients and therefore soil conservation or preservation, because when rain drops on the trees, does not impact directly the soil, and there is something that takes place on the soil, and therefore this goes underground. So we also have the preservation of the flora and fauna of the place. And one other important thing is the satisfaction of working in a place like this, the incentive for the expansion of this agroforest system, which is very relevant at this time, because we speak about a lot about the systemic help. We have all these plants that really promote the flora and the fauna, and this really reduces CO2 emissions, and we have a landscape of, well, actually a mosaic of landscapes, and this helps us to have agroecological areas with different preservation areas where animals can really go freely, and this is part of the agroforest system, which really benefits both animals and humans. With the social and economic aspect. Please. Good afternoon to you all, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me? Yes, of course, of course. Well, I'm going to share my screen in order for you to see my presentation. Can you please tell me if you are able to see? Well, we have not yet seen the presentation. I'm trying. One more minute, please. Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Thank you very much. Good afternoon to you all who are participating at this meeting, and I want to thank for the invitation. I'm going to speak about the experience we have in the agroforest production in this area of Terra Verde. My name is Jairson. I am an agroforest producer or grower, and I belong to the municipality where I live in. I work at this agroforest convention, and agroforestry, and this is located in Tomé Azul, close to an urban center called Four Mouths, Cuatro Bocas, and we're very close to the urban zone. Before starting my presentation, I want to pay homage to my father, who has developed a work here in this property. He passed away this year. My parents came from Japan. Here is my presentation. They arrived in 1973, and they bought this property in 1978. My father was cultivating the organic system, the agroecological one, with an agroforestry system, and he was also working with these endeavors. He was an agronomist, and as technical assistant, he worked with assistance in the cooperative, and he was also working with this agroforestry system. This is a knowledge I was gathering, and also with what I learned about this. My father passed away last April 28. Well, as I've said before, this property has been here for the last 43 years, and it's called Sitio Terra Verde. We have 66 hectares, land hectares, where we cultivate about 35 hectares. We have a message of the system, and we're being recorded. Can you move forward? And can you please turn your camera down, please? Here we have this picture where we see the property about the plantation. There is a combination forming this system, this biodiverse system of plantation and agroforestry. Here we are cultivating different cultivations, banana, pepper, different agricultural plantations we have in the property, and with different forestry species, just like yatoba, batori, chestnut, and the property has woods. We have species we have here. We have beans, different types of beans, inga. And here we have the image where we show the production. This property we have coca, dende, acai, kingdom pepper, palms. And here we have the production of different seeds that will be planted in this system, the main products the property has. Now going directly to the subject matter and speaking about the challenges and opportunities. What we have been learning during these 43 years as to the plantations in this region, well, we have some challenges, and each challenge is an opportunity. We're going to speak about the design of the system, which is a challenge in itself, how the plantation demands more from growers, the tip of the tree, and everything in order to make the design of this and the shadow they need. So the design of the system is a great challenge because we are managing a different design, and well, it is worthless to plant something that will last 3 or 4 years and productivity decreasing later. So we need to have a combination of species, some design, in order for it to last at least 30 or 40 years. One other challenge we have is the management of the property. We have different species where we have the demand of cutting, nutrition, and the collection or fruit gathering, demanding obviously how he has managed the property. This is one other challenge, and he has to really Well, we do not have specialized labor in order to have a good management. So this is a great challenge. We have to train the labor, not only the owner, but the collaborator himself. We also have an important challenge in connection with the genetic material, seeds for the agroforestry system, and actually research is addressed to the genetic improvement of species in monocultures, in plantations, in conventional plantations rather. So we'll leave here a message to researchers about the importance of developing genetic material for the agroforestry system, which is different by itself. For instance, the blue cupora, if we have a high productivity and it can be planted in the shadow, we can also work with this with a plant that can also work with lots of sun. So the preparation of the area is a great challenge. We have the tradition in the Amazonia are the burns and the cutting. So we have to prepare areas without any fires in order to manage, and it's even more difficult to do this. So this is a challenge for us in order to develop methodologies for the preparation of areas using equipment. There are equipments, but they are very expensive to prepare the area without any fires. This is a great challenge. Another one is for us is the certification, and we have the certification and the value given to the agroforestry. And at this type of meetings is good to leave some messages. There are some producers who produce this in a different way, and actually we would like very much to place our product in the market with the certification. And this has not yet happened, and we have another challenge, and we see the certification of some other products. So the agriculture needs to certify the service without the appropriate methodology, which we do not have, or that has been worthily accepted in order to value these environmental services. This is one further challenge, remembering always the challenge, which is an opportunity eventually. So this is an opportunity to discuss our challenges. Ready. We have one other slide. And I want to make references to the benefits of the system and why would I recommend it to our agricultural colleagues in the Amazonia. I do not see any other that appropriate, that adapted to the region, which is hot, which is humid, as the one we have here. So we have some points here, some bullet points. For instance, the importance, the diversified production for homes, and we are small growers, and food security, not only to sell, but it can also be used to nourish your family, and we can depend less of some other foods who come from abroad. For instance, in my family, we eat acai all day long, every day. So we have also one important point, which is the ecological balance. We have less problems of having pests or diseases. So this is something we have also certified in our properties: soil preservation, the increase of fertility, the life term of the soil, the preservation of the flora and the fauna, carbon fixation, everything we have discussed here, but I am just making a list for you to discuss about the benefits of the system we have at the Amazonia.
These are some lessons learned. And to start with, I want to share with you that we learned that the design is very, very important for productivity. You need to have time to design, to see combinations, what will work in order to improve productivity, and that is a lesson learned. We have gained experience and made less mistakes. Another important thing that we learned is the relevance of planning. That is planning logistics of the area, also acquisition of sprouts and what is it that you are going to do, design of the area, what species, and of course to plan management. Different from monoculture, where you have pretty much a recipe for a single crop. And in this system, we don't have that recipe because we have to develop in your own planning or in our own planning. Another lesson learned is that we will never have a perfect model, but we are in the quest all the time. This is a good model. We are renewing it time and again. What was working 2 years ago is no longer working. We have to be up to date in terms of planting with different information we gather as time has gone by and as we analyze our plantation. Another lesson learned has to do with the type of agroforestry system, that is the production system. And to the left, we see monocrop, and to the right, we see native forests. And we see that biodiversity increases as the production system reaches that of native forests. That is where we have greatest biodiversity, but still, we cannot have a satisfactory agricultural production in these type of forests. So that's why we use agriculture, and in order not to leave forestry aside, we go into agroforestry systems. Now, to say which is the best agroforestry system is hard because there is not such thing. It depends upon the grower and the system he or she develops, and each one finds a balance between environmental and productivity gains. And the cooperative, there are time constraints. Do you think we could start wrapping up the presentation? Yeah, sure. So we are living monocrop, and then we start working with multiple crops, and many other growers are doing it. The community is visited time and again. We hold courses, we generate knowledge, and we share with the community experiences gained. So that is part of the mission that we have at our property, and I want to leave you with some takeaways in order to think about biomimetics and, of course, smart design. This latter says that if we see nature, we find smartness or intelligence. We see a flower and the design, the colors, where it works, and the bee has a hidden intelligence. And biomimetics is to have nature as a source of inspiration and to use these two concepts or theories for agroforestry. see nature and bring that knowledge to our agroforestry systems. That is a takeaway for all of you, from me to you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your presentation. Wonderful presentation. The material was wonderful. Now we have our last colleague, and then we will have Q&A session. Yaitsuno, please don't leave. And so I would like now to have our next speaker, and we'll start with a video showing the experience of the area, and then Diane Batista talking about the Northeast practices. She's from the Northeast of Pará. She's a grower, and she works at the region. She's a forestry technician. She's a mother of 3 and a nature lover, and she's going to share with us her experience together with her husband Tiago, have developed these practices in the northern portions of Pará, in the northern portion of or northern region of our country. So now the video, please. Hello, I'm Leilani Martinez, and I live at Tomiatsu at Hacienda San Francisco. We plant in this area. I want to stress that this area used to be a farm, a finca, and we decided to plant these species in order to keep up with the plantation. We work with dendê. We have trees, dendê trees, and we plant them in order to have a new experience. Our motivation is, aside from planting, to guarantee our livelihood, and of course that of our family, and also protect the environment and the region. We have encountered several challenges, and we had the help of machinery for the cleaning of the area. And it is important to mention that the area was not burned down. It was worked without burning, without fire. This SAFI is being a wonderful experience for all of us. We are now having production, and with that we will have our own livelihood and will help the environment. However, this area was an area with a mandioca or yucca plantation. It was highly saturated, and it was difficult to plant SAFI, that is the agroforestry system. And we have different types of products produce like pacuri, banana, cocoa, and different plants. We also grow pepper, and by means of this decision to implement this agroforestry system, we saw the improvement of our soil, because our soil is richer now, and that contributes to the development of all these different species that we planted. This area was not burned. This area was worked without burning. This agroforestry system is wonderful. We are seeing now production, and very soon it will contribute not only to our livelihood, but also will contribute to the environment. So we have to be aware of the fact that we have to plant without being aggressive with the soil, because we see burning of soil, and we have to understand that it's good to plant and to take care of the soil, and to plant with the agroforestry system, of course, but also plant different varieties of plants. In this region, in this area, as you very well see, we had the help in order to prepare the soil for it to receive the plants, and we also had help from people, from organization. And one of the challenges that we had at the time for this system to be implemented was, of course, labor and soil and, of course, cost. All of these that will be part of the process. And what is important for us is that it is an area that may not have anything planted and wouldn't have left any financial resources for our family. However, we took advantage of the region. We now have been working for 2 years, and we are now seeing the results, of course. And we have other species like the pereba, bacuri, and several species already planted in the property. So I think that it would be very good to implement this agroforestry, the implementation of this agroforestry system for the development of the forest and a livelihood for us. And I feel very, very happy to talk about this system because I learned about it not long ago, and I see that it's working, and that is encouraging for other people to think about using this agroforestry system. I am Leilani Martinez Batista. I live in Tome Azul, at Pará, at the locality of Rama Bom Jardim at the San Francisco Hacienda. I am a grower. Since 2017, I have my in-laws, I have my husband. We are all farmers working in this region. We are very happy and encouraged to take care of the forest, of the plants, and we are very happy. It is encouraging to work in a region, in the place where we live. This is a plantation with an agroforestry system. That is very, very interesting, and I believe that this type of system of survival is also a way to taking care of nature, of Mother Nature, without any aggressions. So these agroforestry systems are a challenge, particularly for me, because I did not have knowledge of what the system was all about. And thank God we had an opportunity to learn about it in our own region. I've seen great progress using this agroforestry system, and we are making progress from an economic and conservation standpoint. And the objective of the conservation in the region is a family structure with better financial situation by means of this system. And for us, it is very good to know and to see that it is working. Because oftentimes we might think that it's not going to work. However, I'm certain that it's going to work. I know that this is going to work. I know that the system's going to work. I know that it's wonderful also to take good care of Mother Nature. And it is an incentive for us. Hopefully, many people in the near future can take care of Mother Nature also, because it's part of our life. Nature contributes and gives us what we eat what we breathe, what we have. And I believe that if we were all truly concerned about Mother Nature and taking action, then it would be better for all of us to live better, for our children to have a better life, and for them to breathe clean air and to take care of our land. We have to teach them how to take care of our land, because everything we do with love and with pleasure works. So I am very grateful. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk about the agroforestry system. And it's not that hard. It's not that easy. I mean, we have challenges, and of course, we have things that are going on. And still, we should not allow that to stop our growth. And that's because the challenges we have, and of course the implementation of this system, like for example labor. Sometimes we don't even have seeds or improved seeds or better seeds. So that is also a challenge. Still, we are coping with that challenge, and it has worked, and we realize that the system can have great demand and can be used for a longer period of time, and can also help a number of people who do not have an income, for them to have their income for their livelihood. And I believe that it's very good for everybody to think about this type of system, implement this type of agroforestry system. Of course, we have encountered challenges, but we cope with them, of course. And now, with respect to logistics, that is to have these machines helping us clean up, because we do not burn anything at the region, so as not to affect the land, so that when we plant, our land is rich with nutrients. We have challenges, of course, in the implementation of this system, undoubtedly, because we don't have technical assistance. And sometimes we lack financial resources as well. Seeds. We don't have machinery to clean up the area. So those are part of the challenges and difficulties we face. I also believe that one of the difficulties that I have seen is that in the implementation of the system, if you don't have the willingness to do what you want to do, and to do whatever it takes in order to implement the system, then it is difficult. I mean, you have to be determined and willing, and of course it is a difficulty because sometimes it's difficult, and I'm living proof saying that it does work, and that you should stick to your idea. Don't think it's more difficult than it is. It is wonderful to take care of our land. It is very enriching to know that everything takes time to plant, time to crop, and of course we have to learn all that. And I think that that's one of the main topics, that's one of the main learnings. If we had good technical assistance, we would be able to develop a better treated property, better sustained property. That's what I wanted to share with you. This is the message I want to convey, and also talk about labor. It's important to stress that it is difficult, something that we have to cope with. It's scarce. And I want to share all of you, or to tell you, to share with all of you and tell you that if you can take care of nature, you should, and should never forget that we should not only think about our food, but also we have to remember that we have to plant trees, not only eat out of the land. We are losing species. There's great deforestation, and we should strive to have balance in nature. Therefore, we should incentivize new generations to plant in a smarter way fruits, fruit trees, and other types of crops, because that will help us all. That will contribute to the quality of air, and nature teaches us how to behave and how to treat it without being aggressive, without harming our mother nature. That's why I'm here to tell you that it works. Of course, it is a challenge, but it's a wonderful challenge and very encouraging challenge. There are many lessons learned. We have learned at the time of planting and implementing this agroforestry system, because there are people who only plant once. However, this system is going to help as follows. With the implementation of a system with different species, for example. Keeping clearly in mind the best possible use of the area, and select an area to plant. And aside from that, you will have ongoing income for years to come, because if you only plant one species, you will only have income during the crop of that particular plant. However, with this system, you have year-round income, because you have one cycle after the other. Therefore, I believe that this system is a very good idea for planting, and in order to make the best out of a certain property with year-round production, year-round income. And that money, of course, will help you implement a new area on the property, and therefore you will have different cycles. You will have to take care of the property year-round, and with trimming, with cleaning, with this agroforestry system, and of course with benefits of producing year-round and optimizing the area that you selected to grow. And of course, depending upon the grower, the person who is working the land, you will be able to select different species, and you yourself will decide what to grow. Perhaps it's cocoa, perhaps it's açaí, perhaps pepper or banana. But keep in mind forestry essentials. For example, mogno,
plantar a castanha, porque ela é também uma espécie que está em extinção, a andiroba, e sendo que essas duas espécies vão também trazer renda para dentro da sua área,
will
né?
Also give you an income. And we have to think about not only the fact on planting and taking care of the area, but also have necessary income with the necessary livelihood based on what we plant, and that is going to benefit your family and infrastructure. And so I believe that it's a wonderful experience, a wonderful investment that I have generated. I can say that I built my house with money earned from the agroforestry system implemented in the region. And that was wonderful for me because I could bring luxury for me, for my family, for my husband, and my in-laws. And this system is a very important practice, and this system works. And if it works for me, it can work for you. You who are watching this video, you who are listening to what I'm saying, you will be successful in the forest area where you decide to work, and also for your own life and for life, because this system will also give you this, not for 1 or 2 years. No, it can be up to 30 years, maybe 50 years, a long-lasting project. Let's keep in mind that we have to work these areas with this system, keeping in mind and with the intention of not using burning. Don't use fire. And with that in mind, wherever you are, this system is going to work for you. And it's also encouraging, it's also very nice to see it with your own eyes and to touch that you planted, and to feel that it's working, and to feel that that's on the table of many people. And feeding people. So I am here as a living example, showing you that it is good and that it works for all of you who are thinking on implementing a system of this sort. Thank you very much. This was the presentation from Leilani, who had an issue with the connection. She is in the interior of Pará, and she had not connection, but she left this video sharing her experience. Now, I would like to have our third speaker,
Martha Irene from Cajamarca at the northern part of Peru, and she migrated to the Amazonia, to the Peruvian Amazonian in 2014, and she founded this cooperative called Cooperativa Agraria Caucatera that promotes sustainable culture systems. And now she works with a large amount of hectares of aromatic cocoa in her region. Irene, you have the floor. First, we'll see the video of Irene's region, and then we will go live. You have the floor. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. From the Cayali region in Peru, where I am devoting myself to coal. I am one of the founders of this cooperative, and now I'm going to tell you about part of my experience. Before planting cocoa here in this area, it was only degraded, and we had grasslands, and also we had pulmas. So it is there where I have made use of these soils related to all the wooden trees of the area, just like paliperro and some other species I could increase here in my plot. The motivation I've had here, well, is the following. I love trees. For me, a tree is life. And from there on, I have not had a lot of experience because this went back to 2013, but I've seen the trees of the area just like Paliperro. And during the springtime, well, the falls drop, the leaves drop or fall, and this is mangrove. So I have chosen this type of trees in the area to do this, and the process I have had in order to implement this has been to clean everything, to plant banana, coca, and this is what has happened with the trees. Obviously, taking care of the environment without burning, but this only took place organically. And what I have here in my plot, well, we have diseases, we have Epidoctora and some other type of diseases, and this makes us to have problems. But in this regard, in our cooperative, the Loros, we have been helped, and actually the high cost of labor is also a great problem for us, the growers. And, well, the other thing is the following. Since the soils have been degraded, well, we have this problem. So, this has worked better in my daily work, and we had to really have all this mangrove in the forest, and we have some other native trees in the area, and of course this is easy to do. It is important to know where we have to place our good species, no matter whether they are for the long run or for the short run. We need to see where this is in order to be related to cocoa, and in order to contribute to the environment, we have to replant the sides of the river, and we have to make use of this in order to apply it to compost and use them on our same plots. The same advice I would like to give to my fellow growers is to respect the land and to make all the practices in due time to apply fertilizers, so on and so forth, and that the species they would like to increase should belong to the area in order to have positive results. Well, the first thing I do is to observe and then to apply. And in this case here in my plot, I have been able to identify woods that are giving results to me. For instance, Paliperro, and there is a time of the year when the leaves drop and they become fertilizers. And for instance, I have some other species I am replicating here on my plot. So I think that to me this is the important thing. And we should not forget to make the cultural practices in due time. Well, good morning. Well, to me, it is important to take care of life, the life of nature, and to have an environment where we are surrounded by this wonderful environment for all of us. In this profession, well, I mean, my profession is that of a nurse. I devoted myself before to taking care of human life. Today, I take care of nature life. Well, I am in the area, in the region since 2013, and I have the great craving of contributing with something to our forest, to our nature. From there on, I came here without knowing anything how a cocoa plant was to be planted, but the important point for me was to observe. And I saw this plant and I wanted to become a friend of them, and this is what I have done. So in 2013, I started doing jobs on degraded soils, as I said in the video, soils that were worked with or by cocas. At that time, at the Itayali region, there were grasslands, and the people did not want to make use of it. It is where I have been working really hard, and at that time I had some money of what I had worked in the profession I had, and I was able to do this in this area, in this soil. And I have been working with this, with the cocoa, with agroforest systems, and started looking at trees, and the ones I liked, well, I started working with them. And in my cocoa plot, I have the long-term trees, which are different types of hardwoods. We have, for instance, the folly ones. We have Poliperro, and we also have Volina and Mahogany, which are of short life, but I have this species planted 30 meters one from the others, and the woods that are short run that can be harvested 6 or 7 years after, or dividing 1 hectare from the other. And the part where I also have woods related to some other species I have with banana, yucca, our trees are some other trees, but here we have paliperro importantly. And actually, well, I am making use of bananas for the consumption of my family and to sell it and to get income in order to support my family. So this is how I have been working with agroforestry. And with the cooperative I have, Palma de Lores, we have been working with biohuercos, different species, in order to see that we can get our daily income. And the most important thing is to eat healthy, and this is of the result of what we plant on our plot. And obviously, if we have a little bit more, we can share this with the rest of the people. This is what we have been doing with Polpa del Loro plot. At the riverbank of rivers, I am planting different trees, and in order to use them, well, I also see this related with bananas. I make use of them in order to cover the cost, because labor is very expensive, and with this pandemic in my area, the cost has raised a lot. So in order to correct this any way or the other, or to preserve trees, I have to plant together with another seed something else, because actually otherwise it would be senseless, because the pandemic has really make us fail and I harvest during winter time so that it will help me in the summer, because the grains are very porous, and with this water we have, we can really water the plants, because otherwise plants will die, just like us, just like human beings, because, well, as I've said before, the pandemic has overwhelmed me, and for me, I have the one in the short run. We are also working in order to see that our woods will be made use of really, and have real value. That will be our effort, and our effort will become money and income for some other families. The use of plants and trees, or I'm using in Pasticella, well, I am using the native plants of the area. As I've said before, I saw this plant, the paliperro, and here in the region, well, this is almost extincted. Before, people who have really turned down our trees have prevented us from finding all this. I have planted over 1,000 trees in this time, and I will be increasing this production. And wherever I can reforest, I will do this. As to the species which are good for coca, to me, cocoa needs a shadow. And if I see this, well, I have to plant trees accordingly. The challenges in order to manage this agroforest system are really strong or hard, but if we want to do this, well, we can do so. This also implies cultural barriers in order for us to install this type of works. So it's a little bit difficult because of the cost. There is a very large cost, and sometimes we do not have this financing. So with a cooperative, we are looking for some alliances to motivate the other partners in order for them to work in this way. Some of them have, but we need to do more. Well, labor is scarce and expensive. Now, the more knowledge we have of species, the best, in order to make the best alliance and management. As to lessons learned, for me, it is important to use seeds and high-quality plants. This is essential to have an optimum development of our plants. The timely installation in terms of the seasons of the year, and obviously the management. And since they are trees, well, they cannot be planted, and we need to also be with the cultures. What else can I tell you? In lessons learned, we have to observe and monitor on a permanent basis our cultures. Definitely, this is something we have to do in order to have the positive results we are aiming at in terms of cocoa management. We have to keep abreast with all the practices, because otherwise this will really hurt us, the growers, because there are very many diseases we are infected with, and if we do not really take good care of all this, it would be very different, a different situation. So in order to have a good crop, we have to keep on really abreast. And we see, for instance, the plot of each one of us. At least I have a diversity of plants in my parcel. For the food, I have yucca, maize, pineapple as two fruits, and I have oranges, lemons. And the plants we have here in the area, Ucaguaje, which is really being expanded all over the world, Camo Camo. And we are trying for these plants to have very good lands, because if we are really healthy, we have to share this with the rest of the people. It is important for food security to eat healthy and give rise to money for our families. Well, since from the practices I have been making in my cooperative, Conca de Lobos, we are working with the partners, with trainers, in order to help them and make them aware to have an appropriate management of the related haciendas which are related to the environment, and without having any deforestation. So this is our objective in terms of what we want to do, and keep on replicating the works that we are doing and be able to work in a joint fashion. We, as an organization, are very, very young, because we were born in 2015, and until 10 years ago, we have been working in a very accelerated fashion. The first year, we exported about 75,000 species, and we're speaking about 1,000 tons we are exporting to our French client with mahogany. And well, this is my experience. I am very, very happy of working with this trees, of working with coca. And this is what I always say. I love trees, and I live, well, fully in love with trees. I'm very happy, and thank you very much for being at this forum, sharing ideas, sharing our life experiences. To me, it is great, it's wonderful to do this from a small space in Peru of Punta Yali. Thank you very much. Excellent presentation, very interesting. And we have some more presentations, and we still have little time, in order to review some public comments and to answer some questions. But before, I'm going to try to make a quick summary of the common points among the three presentations: the benefits of agroforest resources and their challenges. There are common ideas in the three projects. Starting with the benefits, we've seen that there are several benefits for the land, water, soil, CO2 emissions, the satisfaction of growers, ecological equilibrium, the control, disease control at the plantation. And we'll also spoke a lot about Isaí Aljani spoke about the structure, the family structure, how the agroforest can really strengthen the family structure, not only in terms of income, but with food production, diversification of production. And there are productions not only diversified, but along the year they have been staged. This is a point that has been mentioned by the three participants, and the flexibility that the agroforestry system gives to the producer in order for him to choose all this correctly. This was also said. There is the possibility that each one of the growers or farmers has his own system, and that will really reflect his own taste, and that will be pleasant for him. I think that in this point, well, this has been a present practice of in all the lectures given by them. And there is love, there is joy, and there is a common challenge. A common challenge is labor. Several of them said that it's difficult to find trained labor in order to perform operations in the agroforest system, and also the availability of planting plants and seeds in order to be able to have the amount and enough quality to plant the seeds. We need to have access to good quality seeds. Some of them have been genetically improved, and some others are typical of some other plants, just like coca, which is a great risk, a great factor that really guarantees success. Shaisu told us, and Chiane, about the difficulties of not planting all this burning process in order to prepare the land, the soil rather, and this has much more investments to be made. The three of them spoke about a financing process, and that there is a great need to be recovered because the initial cost is very, very high, even vis-a-vis some other places where the burn is made. And some of the points that were presented as a challenge in the beginning of the system, the logistics, the distribution of species, and in the case of Irene, what if there is a distant point or to take the products, cocoa should be distributed differently in order not to compete against them, but rather to have cooperation with the species. So we have to look for the better match for each species so that they will grow well, fine, and finally with the other practices which are considered very, very important for the production function, and to cut, to trim plants opportunely. And this was also mentioned, the importance of giving what has been tackled in order to organize best the species, and a good practice is to reuse the resources and as it has been said, vis-a-vis the compost, and Irene's case, for instance, the husks, cocoa husks that fall on the door imply that, well, also good nutrition is important. We saw the coverage, the soil coverage, and Irene summed this up effectively when she said that life has to be taken into account in order to take care of the soil, of the live waste, and organic fertilizing or composting. We do not have that much time left, but we have to be deferral by telling you that we have to take care of the life and the human factors. Indeed, I have a summary of the three of the ones of the people speaking, and we will have some time in order to address the panelists. I'm going to share my screen with you real quick.
Então, só queria mostrar que tem
And now, interesting questions. I only want to tell you that we have lots of comments and questions that will be answered at the end of the session. If we have not answered your question during the session, please stick with us and we'll do it later. Now I'm sharing my screen. Maya, can someone help me sharing the screen? I will stop sharing, but I will start with a question for the three speakers from the chat. The first one is starting with Jailson. What is the scale with agroforestry system, and how can we help more growers in the Amazonic region to use that same system? What would be your recommendations in order to have more growers and expand production? Can you please repeat the question? Yes. How can we have other growers joining this system? What recommendations? What comments? We have the cooperative that is very strong. And there is a question from the audience with respect to marketing. And the success of the agroforestry system is important in terms of marketing or commercialization, because we have to sell the product. So the cooperative markets the product, and that is very important. Growers organized in cooperatives, then there's a way to train growers, and of course the role of the government is very important to train growers, and so that associations can start working. Of course, that will contribute to expansion and adoption of the diversified system. Of course, we have several products, and the grower may be more specialized, and it is important to strengthen that link. And that is, of course, commercialization aside from training. Yes. Thank you very much for the answer. Martirene, Did you hear the question? How can we escalate? How can we have more people, more growers working with this type of systems from your point of view? Please turn on your microphone. Are you still with us? Jason, we will now have a second question. Could you please share with us what's the minimum portion of land in order to make this type of agroforestry system feasible? What, according to your experience, is the smallest area to implement this type of system in order to make it feasible, of course? Well, as I mentioned, before, each grower has a personal profile. We have the characteristic of the area, the type of consortia, etc. So to say the minimum size, I don't think that it goes in that direction, and it is hard to determine a minimum size of property. But I shared a graph with monocrop, and if we think about a balance of a system for it to be productive, in our example, we work with an average of 15 to 20 hectares. Of course, it is not family business, of course, using external labor. If it's a family-run business, perhaps 6 or 10 hectares, that will depend on the profile of each person. I don't want to give you a minimum. Well, thank you. Marta Irene, are you still with us? If so, I would like to ask you a question. Yes, I can hear you. How can we increase the scale so that more people can work? What are some ideas or recommendations that you can share with us in order to expand the scale of agroforestry, more people, more adoption? Well, yes, with the cooperative, we have been working in that direction, looking for allies in order to make that dream come true. As I said before, we are now working with degraded land, and we are implementing cocoa. And at the same time, since we have agroforestry properties, all of them have agroforestry plots. So we are working together with the cooperative and looking for allies for strategic options in order to have good quality trees. In the beginning, well, seed is hard, it's uphill, it's hard to find good seeds. Another problem might be different from crop to crop. And now working with degraded zones like grasslands and so forth, that people do not have any benefits, that is where the cooperative is looking for ways in order to add to and work together to take care of the environment and life. And we are very happy to mention that, okay, we have to talk about the effort to take care of life, ours and that of nature. And in order to work again, to plant trees again, and in order to compensate what has been taken away from us. Our region has been very benevolent in trees, but there are people who do not care for nature and life. And from Corpa de Loros, we will add up efforts and we'll try to identify native trees like I'm doing right now and try to replicate the effort. And of course, if there are alliances that can add up, it would be wonderful to make this dream come true. Thank you, Martirene. Thank you, Jairso and Leilani. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, our team. We have to wrap up the session, but this is our contact email, and we can answer your questions. We will send your questions to the panel members or myself. So again, thank you very much. Thanks the whole team who made it possible for this session to be held, and in particular, the panel members who shared their experiences. So we are wrapping up the session for today, and thank you again.